Congo's Caper. This is a Super Nintendo platformer made by Data East, which already does not instill me with confidence in how this is going to play, but this is the second game in the Joe and Mac Quartet. Although it's not necessarily clear at any point other than a cameo of a statue of the titular caveman ninjas. And to make it even more confusing, in North America, the third game in the series was called Joe and Mac 2, as opposed to in Japan where it was known as Joe and Mac 3. Of course it stars Joe and Mac, which was just taking jabs at how kind of awkward this game is in terms of where it sits between the rest of them. And it's interesting because the previous iteration of the series, the original Joe and Mac, was an arcade game that was ported to home consoles, whereas this one was designed specifically for home consoles, and you can kind of tell in some respects and you can't in others, which makes it kind of an interesting little beast. Now the story instantly completely dumps on the theory of creationism, because two giant floating balls of evolution drop on the titular Congo and his girlfriend, turning them into monkey people. I guess they're the missing links or something. And then some devil guy comes and captures your girlfriend, and now you have to go rescue her. Because evolution. And if you only played the first chapter of this game, you could basically just call this game Joe and Mac Anime Edition, because it really does feel like it borrows a lot of set pieces from the original game. There's fighting a T-Rex, getting eaten by a dinosaur, fighting a monster in said dinosaur, but if you can look past that, there's actually a lot that differentiates this from the original. First and foremost, once you get out of the first chapter, boom! Level select. You've got 4 different options, plus another chapter after these options are cleared, and it's kind of refreshing to say, oh, well, I want to take this route, or I can take another route. The one downside to this, however, is once you pick a route, you are committed to it until you finish. And that's where I kind of started running into initial problems with this. They decided to design the levels around a console environment, and that's actually great. The original game in the series was a very linear experience for the sake of it being an arcade game, whereas this one features alternate routes and little hidden nooks and crannies you can go explore. Nothing too big, mind you, but it's a welcome addition. Even though the level designs are focused more on a console experience and allowing you to explore at your leisure, there's a lot of carryover from arcade mentality. For one thing, some of the levels are designed to either be ridiculously difficult or just dumb. Case in point, when I first made my selection on the level select screen, I eventually ended up making my way to this one level that was a series of disappearing blocks over a giant spike pit. If you fall in the spike pit, you're trapped there until you die, which is a very arcadey mentality of, let's make this guy's life as bad as possible so that he can insert more coins because he died faster. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing if, say, the platforms that disappeared actually gave you an adequate amount of time to get past them, but they kinda don't. You have to run and jump past like every other platform, and while that isn't inherently a problem, what is that these platforms seem to lack collision half the time. Yeah, I spent a depressing amount of time on this route just falling through platforms, dying to spikes, and that's not exactly ideal. In fact, that's another thing they like to carry over from the arcades is your character is not particularly powerful. You have your basic club as your only real attack in this game, and it's got such a small hitbox you almost have to stand inside your opponent to use it. Really less than ideal, especially considering that, and I hate to make this comparison again, but the original did have projectiles, which made things a little bit easier. What makes it even worse is if you get hit in your anime monkey form, you devolve into a standard monkey form, and then if you get hit again, you die. It's not until you upgrade to Super Saiyan anime monkey form that you actually develop a health bar, because before that, it's just ridiculously punishing, especially when some enemies just like come at you out of nowhere. Like, the enemy spawning and placement in this game is just kind of cruel at times, especially when your ability to defend yourself is rather lacking. Now, that's not to say that Congo doesn't have a lot of moves in his arsenal. He's actually got a surprisingly large amount. He can swing his club, he can slide on inclines. He's got 2 different types of jump, one of which goes much, much higher, but you have to hold up while you do it because I'm not really sure why they needed 2 separate jumps. But you can also use enemies as projectiles sometimes. For whatever reason, you have to knock them out and then push them and then attack, and then sometimes they get shoved out of the way. Other times, for whatever reason, you just smack them with your club and they get knocked down and removed from play. And considering that the first boss is basically designed around this very mechanic, having it be such a hit and miss sort of thing for inputs is less than ideal, certainly. But the nice thing is, as you progress, there are pickups that can help make your journey at least a little bit more balanced. You've got these little yellow gems, which are your standard Mario coins. Collect 100, you get a free life. And then there are giant iterations of it that are automatic lives, so that's pretty nice. You have these little blue diamonds, which activate a slot machine, which near I can tell only gives you points, and in one weird case gave me a bonus level that forced me to replay the level I had prior, because sensible design, I guess? And then you have the magical red Orbs of Evolution. Collecting one in your monkey form turns you into anime monkey form. Collecting 3 in that form turns you into Super Saiyan monkey form. And then every one you get after that while in Super Saiyan monkey form either refills your health bar, or if it's at max, gives you an extra life. So it's not impossible to stockpile lives in this game. It's very, very simple. In fact, you can abuse the checkpoint system in such a way that you can actually get basically infinite lives, depending on how you approach the bonus levels and stuff, which is kind of nice. It evens the playing field a little bit, especially in terms of those odd levels that are just designed to be completely dickish. But does it really balance it out in terms of difficulty and make it a more enjoyable experience? I don't really think so. Don't get me wrong, I like that my character has a fairly wide repertoire of abilities. I like the fact that there's different hidden nooks and crannies in areas. I love that there are bonus levels. I don't like that they teleport you back to the start of the level you started on for some reason though. And I really do like the overall feeling of progression in this world. It's that sort of initial somewhat high bar of difficulty that while you can surpass it, it's not bad, but once you get to the actual levels that are kind of awkwardly designed, it immediately kills all the fun to this game. And that's not good. Also, seriously, screw this level. I died so many times on this level that I just gave up and took a different route. I just consigned to the fact that I was not going to finish this route whatsoever. But like I said, there's things about this game you can easily like as well. It's just those 1 or 2 bits that make it more difficult than it has any real need to be, that make it less enjoyable. Now, the presentation to Congo's Caper is actually pretty high quality in terms of visuals anyway. Visuals are bright, they're colorful, the characters have tons of personality. I love the different enemies. I wish there was more, because you run into these sort of generic caveman enemies way too often. But the environments are awesome, the set pieces are great. I love that running away from a T-Rex and getting eaten by it. Even though you could argue it is a holdover from the first game, still a neat little feature. And you know, it just looks great. However, the audio design goes back to basically the overall gameplay here in being not that great. I mean, it works, I guess, but there's absolutely nothing here that's all that special. And I think that's a great analogy for this game in general. Like, if you want to play this game, and you like platformers and you like arcade-style difficulty, you're probably going to have fun with this game, but if you're looking for something different or something that stands out, there's absolutely nothing here for you. Which is a shame because it lets down the visual presentation and some of the highlights of gameplay, leading to, at best, a mediocre package. Now, if you want a copy of Congo's Caper on the Super NES, cheapest one I'm seeing right now is $30. That seems a little high, but at the same time, I think that's just because of inflation and the fact it's a North American copy. If you want to actually play a Japanese copy, it'll be about $25, which, again, still seems a little bit high for this game. But you know, there are some parts that I could say that price is justified with. On the bright side, I did not pay for this. Like the previous few games and the next few, I got this as part of a box of games I traded for from my lovely girlfriend. And having looked through this box, I gotta say this might be the low point. It's not bad or anything, but kind of like I said earlier, for every good thing it does, it feels like it does something wrong, and it just feels really, really lukewarm out of the box. And it's a shame because I was actually pretty excited about this game. Now that said, do I recommend this game? Well, if you're a fan of Joe and Mac, it might be worthwhile to see where the missing link in the series came from. If you're a fan of Data East, this is a no-brainer. If you like Super Nintendo platformers, maybe don't spend too much on it, but sure. But if you're looking for a truly unique experience, as I like to in my games, this one's gonna fall flat pretty hard. It's got frustrating moments that don't feel well balanced, and for every fun thing it's got, it does something wrong. And at the end of the day, it feels like a footnote in the Super Nintendo's library, honestly. It just does not have anything that makes it feel noteworthy. But at the same time, I suppose that's fitting. After all, this is the Joe and Mac series missing link.